The Psychology of Winning Every Conversation. How to Influence, Persuade, and Be Respected Instantly. By T.M. Light. Description: The Psychology of Winning Every Conversation is a powerful guide to mastering communication, influence, and persuasion in everyday life. This book reveals proven psychological strategies to help you build confidence, create strong first impressions, and communicate with clarity and authority. Learn how to read people, handle difficult conversations, and influence others without resistance. Designed for personal and professional growth, this book empowers you to become a respected and persuasive communicator. Whether in business, relationships, or leadership, these practical insights will transform how you connect, speak, and succeed in every conversation you have. Chapter Outline. Introduction: Why Conversations Define Your Success. Chapter 1: The First Impression Advantage. Chapter 2: The Science of Likability. Chapter 3: Mastering the Art of Listening. Chapter 4: Speaking with Authority and Clarity. Chapter 5: The Power of Framing and Perspective. Chapter 6: Persuasion Without Resistance. Chapter 7: Handling Difficult Conversations Like a Pro. Chapter 8: Reading People Instantly. Chapter 9: Building Unshakable Presence. Chapter 10: Becoming a Master Communicator. Conclusion: The Long-Term Power of Psychological Communication. Introduction: Why Conversations Define Your Success. There is a quiet force shaping your life every single day, and most people never stop to recognize it. It is not luck. It is not talent alone. It is not even your level of education. It is the conversations you have, what you say, how you say it, and how others feel when they interact with you. Every opportunity you receive, every relationship you build, every door that opens or closes often traces back to a conversation. Whether you realize it or not, your ability to navigate conversations is one of the most powerful determinants of your success. Think about it. A job offer is not just about your qualifications, it is about how you present yourself in an interview. A promotion is not just about hard work, it is about how you communicate your value. Relationships are not built on thoughts alone, they are built on shared words, emotions, and understanding. Even the way people perceive your confidence, intelligence, and leadership is heavily influenced by how you speak and how you engage. Conversations are not just exchanges of words, they are the currency of influence. What makes this even more powerful is that most conversations appear ordinary. They happen in passing moments, casual chats, quick meetings, brief interactions. Yet within these seemingly small exchanges lies the ability to shape perceptions, create opportunities, and leave lasting impressions. A single sentence can make someone trust you. A single tone can make someone respect you. A single moment can change the direction of your life. This is the hidden power of everyday conversations. They may seem small, but their impact is anything but. Many people believe that intelligence alone is enough to succeed. They assume that if they know more, work harder, or think faster, success will naturally follow. But reality tells a different story. You may have brilliant ideas, but if you cannot communicate them effectively, they remain invisible. You may be highly capable, but if you cannot influence others, your potential stays locked inside you. Intelligence gives you the tools, but psychology determines whether those tools are ever used effectively. Psychology is the real advantage because it governs how people think, feel, and respond. It is the difference between being heard and being ignored, between being liked and being respected, between being convincing and being dismissed. When you understand the psychological dynamics behind conversations, you begin to see patterns that others miss. You realize that people are not just responding to your words, They are responding to your confidence, your energy, your tone, and the subtle signals you send. Mastering this gives you an edge that intelligence alone can never provide. There is also a critical distinction that most people overlook: the difference between talking, influencing, and commanding respect. Talking is simply expressing words. Anyone can do it. Influencing, however, is about shaping how others think and feel. It is about guiding a conversation in a way that creates alignment and agreement. Commanding respect goes even deeper. It is not just about what you say, but how you make others perceive you. It is when people listen to you not because they have to, but because they want to. It is when your presence alone changes the tone of a conversation. Most people spend their lives stuck at the level of talking. They speak, but they are not truly heard. They share ideas, but they do not move people. They participate in conversations, but they do not lead them. This book is about breaking out of that level and stepping into something far more powerful. It is about learning how to influence naturally, persuade effectively, and command respect without force. As you move through this book, you will begin to notice a transformation in the way you approach communication. You will become more aware of the subtle dynamics at play in every interaction. You will start to recognize what makes people open up, what makes them resist, and what makes them trust. You will learn how to adjust your tone, your words, and your presence in a way that creates immediate impact. Conversations will no longer feel random or unpredictable. Instead, they will become opportunities to connect, to lead, and to influence. This transformation does not require you to become someone else. It does not demand that you adopt a fake personality or manipulate people. In fact, the most powerful communication comes from authenticity combined with awareness. When you understand the psychology behind conversations, you do not lose your voice, you refine it. You become more intentional, more confident, more effective. You begin to communicate in a way that aligns with who you are, while also resonating deeply with others. At the heart of this book are three core principles: influence, persuasion, and presence. Influence is the ability to shape the direction of a conversation without forcing it. It is subtle, yet powerful. Persuasion is the art of guiding others toward a decision, while making them feel comfortable and in control. It is not about pressure, it is about alignment. Presence is the foundation of it all. It is the energy you bring into a conversation, the confidence you project, and the respect you command without saying a word. When these three elements come together, something remarkable happens. Conversations begin to work in your favor. People listen more closely. They respond more positively. They remember you. You stop chasing validation, and instead, you naturally attract attention and respect. You move from reacting in conversations to leading them. This is not just about improving how you speak. It is about changing how you show up in the world. Because when you master conversations, you are not just exchanging words, you are shaping outcomes. You are influencing decisions. You are creating opportunities that did not exist before. Your success is not determined only by what you know, but by how effectively you can communicate it. And the moment you truly understand this, is the moment everything begins to change. Chapter 1: The First Impression Advantage. Before you say a single word, before you explain your ideas, before you prove your intelligence or your value, something powerful has already happened. A judgment has been made. It is fast, automatic, and often invisible, yet it carries enormous weight. Within seconds of meeting you, people begin forming opinions about who you are, how confident you are, how trustworthy you are, and how much respect they should give you. This is the first impression advantage, and whether you are aware of it or not, it is shaping your outcomes every single day. It may feel unfair that people judge so quickly, but this is not a flaw in human behavior. It is a survival mechanism. The human brain is wired to make rapid assessments in order to navigate the world efficiently. Long before modern society, quick judgments helped our ancestors determine whether someone was safe or dangerous, trustworthy or deceptive. That instinct still exists today, only now it plays out in conversations, meetings, interviews, and everyday interactions. People are constantly asking themselves, often unconsciously, who is this person and how should I respond to them? The truth is that people do not wait for evidence before forming an opinion. They create a story about you almost instantly, and everything you say afterward is filtered through that story. If the first impression is strong, your words gain more weight. If it is weak, even your best ideas may be overlooked. This is why mastering first impressions is not optional. It is essential. What is fascinating is that these snap judgments are rarely based on logic. They are driven by psychology. People are not carefully analyzing your qualifications or your thoughts in those first moments. Instead, they are responding to subtle signals: your posture, your facial expressions, your tone of voice, your eye contact, and the overall energy you bring into the interaction. These signals speak louder than words because they are processed faster and feel more authentic. Words can be controlled, but nonverbal cues are harder to fake, which is why people instinctively trust them more. Imagine walking into a room with slouched shoulders, hesitant movements, and a lack of eye contact. Even if you are highly capable, the message you are sending is uncertainty. Now imagine walking into that same room with steady posture, calm movements, and a composed presence. Without saying anything, you are already communicating confidence and control. The difference between these two scenarios is not intelligence or skill. It is perception, and perception is everything. Body language is one of the most powerful silent influences in any conversation. It is constantly communicating on your behalf, whether you realize it or not. The way you stand, the way you sit, the way you move your hands, and even the way you breathe all contribute to the impression you create. Open and relaxed body language signals confidence and approachability, while closed and tense body language can signal insecurity or defensiveness. People pick up on these cues instantly, often without being aware of it. Your tone of voice is equally powerful. It is not just what you say, but how you say it that determines how your message is received. A strong, steady tone conveys confidence and authority, while a shaky or rushed tone can undermine your credibility. Even small variations in pace and emphasis can change the meaning of your words. A calm, measured voice suggests control and clarity, while a rushed delivery can suggest nervousness or uncertainty. People may not consciously analyze your tone, but they feel it, and that feeling shapes their response to you. Then there is your energy, which is perhaps the most subtle yet most influential factor of all. Energy is the emotional presence you bring into a conversation. It is the combination of your mindset, your confidence, and your emotional state. People are incredibly sensitive to energy. They can sense when someone is confident, when someone is anxious, when someone is genuine, and when someone is trying too hard. Your energy sets the tone for the entire interaction. If you enter a conversation with calm confidence, others are more likely to respond with respect. If you enter with doubt or tension, that feeling can spread just as quickly. The good news is that while first impressions happen quickly, they are not beyond your control. You have the ability to shape how you are perceived from the very first moment. It starts with awareness. When you understand that people are constantly reading your non-verbal signals, you become more intentional about what you communicate. You begin to align your body language, your tone, and your energy with the message you want to send. Projecting confidence and credibility does not require you to be perfect. It requires you to be intentional. Confidence is not about being loud or dominant. It is about being grounded and certain in yourself. It is reflected in small but powerful behaviors, maintaining steady eye contact, speaking at a measured pace, and moving with purpose rather than hesitation. These signals tell others that you are comfortable in your own presence, and that comfort naturally commands respect. Credibility, on the other hand, is about trust. It is about making people feel that what you say has value. Credibility is built not only through your knowledge, but through the way you present that knowledge. When you speak clearly, avoid unnecessary filler words, and express your ideas with conviction, people are more likely to take you seriously. Even before you prove your expertise, the way you communicate can establish you as someone worth listening to. However, there is an important balance that must be achieved. Confidence without warmth can come across as arrogance. Warmth without confidence can come across as weakness. The true power lies in combining the two, creating what can be described as warm authority. This is the ability to be both likable and respected at the same time. Warm authority is what makes people feel comfortable around you, while also taking you seriously. It is the difference between someone who is friendly but overlooked and someone who is both approachable and influential. When you embody warm authority, people are drawn to you, but they also value your presence. They listen not just because they like you, but because they respect you. Achieving this balance starts with your mindset. You must believe that you have value to offer, while also recognizing the value in others. This creates a natural sense of confidence, without the need to dominate. It allows you to engage with others in a way that is both assertive and respectful. You are not trying to prove yourself, and you are not trying to please everyone. You are simply showing up as someone who is both self-assured and open. In practice, warm authority is reflected in the way you interact. It is in the genuine smile that makes others feel at ease. It is in the attentive listening that shows you respect their perspective. It is in the calm, steady voice that communicates confidence without aggression. It is in the ability to express your thoughts clearly while remaining open to others. These small behaviors create a powerful combination that leaves a lasting impression. One of the most important things to understand is that first impressions are not just about the beginning of a conversation. They set the tone for everything that follows. When you start strong, you create momentum. People become more receptive, more engaged, and more willing to listen. You do not have to fight for attention or struggle to be heard. The conversation flows more naturally because the foundation has already been established. On the other hand, a weak first impression can create resistance. People may become skeptical, distracted, or disengaged. You may find yourself working harder to prove your value, trying to overcome an initial perception that was formed in seconds. This is why mastering first impressions is so powerful. It allows you to start from a position of strength, rather than trying to recover from a disadvantage. As you move forward, begin to see every interaction as an opportunity to practice this skill. Pay attention to how you enter a room, how you greet people, how you carry yourself, and how you speak in those first moments. Notice the impact it has on others. You will start to see patterns. You will begin to understand how small adjustments can create significant changes in how you are perceived. The first impression advantage is not about manipulation. It is about alignment. It is about ensuring that the way you present yourself matches the value you have to offer. When your internal confidence is reflected in your external behavior, you create a sense of authenticity that people can feel. And when people feel that authenticity, they are more likely to trust you, respect you, and engage with you. You do not need to wait for the perfect moment to start. Every conversation you have today is an opportunity to apply what you have learned. Every interaction is a chance to refine your presence, to strengthen your confidence, and to leave a stronger impression than before. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. What once required effort begins to feel effortless. Remember, success is not just about what you know or what you can do. It is about how you are perceived. And perception begins in the very first moments. When you learn to master those moments, you unlock a powerful advantage that can transform every area of your life. Chapter 2: The Science of Likability. There is a powerful truth that quietly shapes the outcomes of your conversations, your relationships, and your opportunities. People are far more likely to say yes to those they like. It does not matter how logical your argument is, how brilliant your idea may be, or how qualified you are on paper. If people do not feel a sense of connection with you, your influence is limited. But when they like you, everything changes. Doors open more easily. Conversations flow more naturally. Resistance softens. Agreement becomes more likely. Likability is not about being charming in a superficial way, nor is it about trying to please everyone. It is rooted in psychology. It is about how you make people feel when they are around you. When people feel comfortable, understood, and valued, they instinctively move closer to you. They listen more attentively. They trust more quickly. They become more open to your ideas. This is why likability is not a soft skill. It is a strategic advantage. At its core, likability is driven by trust and connection. These are not built through words alone, but through emotional experiences. People are constantly asking themselves, often without realizing it, do I feel safe with this person? Do I feel understood? Do I feel respected? When the answer is yes, a powerful bond begins to form. That bond becomes the foundation for influence. Trust is one of the strongest psychological triggers in any interaction. Without it, persuasion feels like pressure. With it, persuasion feels like guidance. Trust is built in subtle ways, often before a conversation even fully begins. It is reflected in your consistency, your tone, your honesty, and your ability to be present. When your words align with your behavior, people begin to see you as reliable. When you listen without interrupting or dismissing, they begin to feel valued. These small moments accumulate, creating a sense of trust that makes people more receptive to you. Connection goes even deeper. It is the feeling that you and the other person are on the same wavelength. It is the sense that you understand them, not just intellectually, but emotionally. Connection is what transforms a conversation from a simple exchange of words into a meaningful interaction. When people feel connected to you, they are not just listening to respond. They are listening to engage. They are more willing to share, to open up, and to collaborate. One of the most powerful ways to build connection is through mirroring. Mirroring is a natural human behavior where people subtly imitate each other's body language, tone, and rhythm of speech. When done consciously and appropriately, it creates a sense of familiarity and comfort. It signals to the other person that you are aligned with them. This does not mean copying someone in an obvious or exaggerated way. It means gently matching their energy, their pace, and their style. If someone speaks calmly and slowly, responding in a similar manner creates harmony. If someone is more energetic and expressive, adjusting your energy slightly in that direction can make the interaction feel more natural. This alignment reduces psychological distance. It makes the other person feel as though you are similar to them, and similarity is one of the strongest drivers of likability. People are naturally drawn to those who feel familiar. Empathy is another essential element of likability. It is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person. But true empathy goes beyond simply recognizing emotions. It involves acknowledging them in a way that makes the other person feel seen and heard. When someone expresses a concern, responding with genuine understanding rather than immediately offering solutions can create a powerful connection. Empathy communicates that you are not just focused on your own perspective, but that you value theirs as well. It shifts the conversation from being about you to being about the relationship. This shift is what makes people feel comfortable. It allows them to lower their guard and engage more openly. In a world where many people feel unheard, empathy stands out as a rare and powerful quality. Emotional alignment takes this even further. It is the ability to tune into the emotional state of the other person and adjust your approach accordingly. If someone is excited, matching that enthusiasm can strengthen the connection. If someone is serious or concerned, responding with calm and understanding shows respect for their state. Emotional alignment is not about losing your authenticity. It is about meeting people where they are. However, there is an important distinction that must be understood. The techniques of mirroring, empathy, and emotional alignment can be used in two very different ways, authentically or manipulatively. The difference lies in your intention. If your goal is to genuinely connect and create value, these techniques enhance your communication in a natural way. But if your goal is to control or deceive, they can come across as insincere. People are more perceptive than we often give them credit for. They may not consciously identify manipulation, but they can feel when something is off. Authenticity is what makes likability sustainable. It is what turns a momentary connection into a lasting impression. When you are genuine, your words and actions align naturally. You are not trying to be someone else. You are simply expressing yourself in a way that resonates with others. Authenticity does not mean saying whatever comes to mind without consideration. It means being honest while also being aware. It means expressing your thoughts clearly while respecting the perspective of others. It means showing confidence without arrogance and warmth without weakness. When you operate from this place, people sense it. They feel that you are real, and that feeling builds trust. Becoming naturally magnetic in conversations is not about learning a script or following a set of rigid rules. It is about developing a presence that draws people in. Magnetism comes from a combination of confidence, curiosity, and genuine interest in others. When you are fully present in a conversation, when you are not distracted or focused on what to say next, people feel it. They feel that you are engaged, and that engagement makes them feel important. Curiosity plays a significant role in this. When you approach conversations with a genuine desire to understand, rather than just to respond, you create a different dynamic. You ask better questions. You listen more deeply. You discover insights that others might miss. This curiosity makes conversations more interesting, not just for you, but for the other person as well. It creates a sense of exploration and connection. Confidence adds another layer to this magnetism. It is not about dominating the conversation or trying to impress. It is about being comfortable with yourself. When you are confident, you do not feel the need to force interactions. You allow them to unfold naturally. You are not seeking approval, which paradoxically makes people more likely to respect and appreciate you. Energy also plays a crucial role. People are drawn to those who bring positive, grounded energy into a conversation. This does not mean being overly enthusiastic or artificial. It means being calm, engaged, and emotionally balanced. Your energy influences how others feel, and those feelings become associated with you. When people feel good around you, they want to spend more time with you. They want to continue the conversation. It is important to remember that likability is not about being liked by everyone. That is neither realistic nor necessary. Instead, it is about creating meaningful connections with the people who matter. It is about being someone others enjoy interacting with, someone they trust and someone they respect. When you focus on quality over quantity, your influence becomes more powerful. As you develop this skill, you will begin to notice changes in your interactions. Conversations will feel more natural. People will respond more positively. You will find it easier to build rapport and establish trust. Opportunities will begin to emerge, not because you are forcing them, but because people are drawn to you. The science of likability is not about changing who you are. It is about understanding how human connection works, and using that understanding to communicate more effectively. It is about aligning your intentions with your actions, your words with your energy, and your presence with your purpose. When you master likability, you unlock a powerful ability to influence without force. You create an environment where people want to listen to you, where they are open to your ideas, and where they feel comfortable engaging with you. This is not just a communication skill. It is a life skill. Because at the end of the day, people may forget what you said, but they will always remember how you made them feel. And when you consistently make people feel valued, understood, and respected, you become someone they naturally say yes to. Chapter 3: Mastering the Art of Listening. In a world where everyone is eager to speak, to be heard, and to be understood, there is a rare and powerful skill that sets truly influential people apart: the ability to listen. Not just to hear words, but to fully understand, to connect, and to make others feel seen. While most people believe that winning conversations is about speaking well, the truth is far more profound. The real power lies in listening well. Listening is often underestimated because it appears passive. It seems like the absence of action, the quiet side of communication. But in reality, it is one of the most active, intentional, and impactful skills you can develop. When you listen deeply, you gain access to something most people miss: insight. You begin to understand not just what people are saying, but why they are saying it. You uncover emotions, motivations, and perspectives that are not always expressed directly. This understanding gives you an advantage that speaking alone can never provide. When you focus only on speaking, you are limited to what you already know. But when you listen, you expand your awareness. You gather information, you build trust, and you position yourself as someone people value. This is why listening is more powerful than speaking. It allows you to influence without pushing, to connect without forcing, and to lead without dominating. There is a significant difference between passive listening and active listening, and understanding this difference is essential. Passive listening is what most people do by default. It is hearing words while mentally preparing your response. It is nodding along without truly engaging. It is being physically present, but mentally elsewhere. Passive listening creates shallow interactions because the other person can sense the lack of genuine attention. Active listening, on the other hand, is intentional and focused. It is being fully present in the moment, giving your complete attention to the person speaking. It involves not just hearing their words, but observing their tone, their body language, and the emotions behind their message. Active listening requires you to set aside your own thoughts temporarily and enter the perspective of the other person. It is a conscious choice to prioritize understanding over responding. When you practice active listening, something remarkable happens. People begin to feel valued. They feel respected. They feel understood. And these feelings create a powerful psychological impact. In a world where many people feel overlooked or misunderstood, being truly heard is a rare experience. When you provide that experience, you stand out immediately. The psychological impact of feeling heard cannot be overstated. When people feel heard, their defenses lower. They become more open, more relaxed, and more willing to engage. They are less likely to resist, and more likely to collaborate. This is because feeling heard satisfies a fundamental human need, the need for recognition. It tells people that their thoughts and emotions matter, that they are not being dismissed or ignored. This sense of validation builds trust quickly. Trust is the foundation of influence, and listening is one of the fastest ways to establish it. When people trust you, they are more likely to listen to you in return. They are more receptive to your ideas, more willing to consider your perspective, and more inclined to agree with you. In this way, listening becomes a powerful tool for influence, not through force but through connection. One of the most effective ways to make people open up instantly is to create a space where they feel safe to express themselves. This begins with your presence. When you give someone your full attention, when you maintain eye contact, when your body language is open and relaxed, you communicate that you are engaged. These nonverbal signals are often more powerful than words. They tell the other person that you are interested, that you are listening, and that you care. Silence also plays a crucial role. Many people feel the need to fill every pause in a conversation, but silence can be incredibly powerful when used intentionally. When you allow a moment of silence after someone speaks, it gives them the opportunity to continue. It shows that you are not rushing to respond, but that you are giving them space to express themselves fully. Often, people will share more than they initially intended when they feel that space. Another important technique is asking thoughtful questions. Not questions that are meant to control the conversation, but questions that show genuine curiosity. When you ask someone to elaborate, to explain their perspective, or to share more about their experience, you invite them to open up. These questions signal that you are interested in understanding them, not just in making your own point. Reflecting and summarizing what the other person has said is another powerful way to deepen the connection. When you paraphrase their words or acknowledge their feelings, you demonstrate that you are truly listening. It reassures them that their message has been received and understood. This simple act can strengthen the bond between you and make the conversation more meaningful. It is also important to listen without judgment. When people feel judged, they become guarded. They filter their words, they hold back, and the conversation becomes less authentic. But when they feel accepted, even if you do not agree with them, they are more likely to express themselves openly. Listening without judgment does not mean you have to agree with everything. It means you are willing to understand before you evaluate. As you develop your listening skills, you will begin to notice a shift in your conversations. People will start to share more with you. They will trust you more quickly. They will seek your perspective because they feel that you understand them. This is the power of listening. It transforms your role in a conversation from someone who is trying to be heard to someone who is naturally influential. Listening also gives you the ability to respond more effectively. When you truly understand the other person, your responses become more relevant and more impactful. You are not guessing or assuming. You are addressing their actual thoughts and concerns. This precision makes your communication more persuasive because it feels tailored and thoughtful. It is important to remember that listening is not about being silent all the time. It is about balance. It is about knowing when to listen and when to speak. When you listen first, you create a foundation. When you speak afterward, your words carry more weight because they are informed by understanding. This sequence is what makes your communication powerful. There is also a deeper level to listening that goes beyond words. It is the ability to sense what is not being said. Sometimes people do not express their true thoughts or emotions directly. They may hold back, soften their message, or avoid certain topics. When you listen closely, you can pick up on these subtleties. You can notice changes in tone, hesitation, or body language that indicate something deeper. This awareness allows you to respond with greater sensitivity and insight. Mastering the art of listening requires practice and patience. It requires you to shift your focus from yourself to others. It requires you to let go of the need to always have the perfect response. But the rewards are worth it. As you become a better listener, you become a better communicator, a better leader, and a more influential person. You will find that conversations become less about competition and more about connection. You will no longer feel the need to dominate or impress. Instead, you will create an environment where ideas flow naturally, where people feel comfortable sharing, and where mutual understanding is the goal. Listening builds influence in a way that is subtle yet powerful. It does not rely on pressure or persuasion tactics. It relies on trust, respect, and connection. When people feel heard, they are more likely to hear you. When they feel understood, they are more likely to understand you. This mutual exchange creates a dynamic where influence happens naturally. As you move forward, challenge yourself to listen more deeply in your daily interactions. Notice when your mind starts to wander or when you begin to plan your response. Bring your attention back to the speaker. Focus on their words, their tone, and their emotions. Practice being fully present. Over time, this will become a habit. You will find that listening no longer requires effort. It becomes a natural part of how you communicate. And as it does, you will begin to see the impact it has on your relationships, your opportunities, and your success. Because in the end, the people who truly win conversations are not the ones who speak the most. They are the ones who understand the most. And understanding begins with listening. Chapter 4: Speaking with Authority and Clarity. There comes a moment in every conversation when the focus shifts to you. It is your turn to speak, to express your thoughts, to present your ideas. And in that moment, something powerful happens. People are not just listening to your words. They are evaluating your confidence, your credibility, and your presence. They are deciding whether your voice carries weight or fades into the background. This is where the art of speaking with authority and clarity becomes essential. Speaking is not simply about transferring information. It is about creating impact. Two people can say the same thing, yet one will be ignored while the other commands attention and respect. The difference lies in how the message is delivered. Authority is not given automatically. It is communicated through subtle psychological signals that shape how others perceive you. When you understand these signals, you gain the ability to speak in a way that naturally draws people in. At the core of confident speech is belief. Not just belief in your ideas, but belief in yourself as someone worth listening to. This belief influences everything from your tone to your posture to your choice of words. When you are internally certain, that certainty becomes visible externally. People sense it. They may not consciously analyze it, but they feel it. And that feeling shapes their response to you. The psychology behind this is simple, yet powerful. Humans are drawn to certainty. In a world filled with uncertainty and doubt, people look for signals of confidence as a way to guide their decisions. When you speak with clarity and conviction, you become a source of that certainty. Your words carry more influence because they are delivered with assurance. On the other hand, when your speech is filled with hesitation or uncertainty, it creates doubt. Even if your ideas are strong, the lack of confidence can weaken their impact. One of the biggest obstacles to speaking with authority is the use of weak language. Weak language often appears in the form of filler words, unnecessary qualifiers, and hesitant phrasing. Words like maybe, I think, kind of, or just may seem harmless, but they subtly undermine your message. They signal uncertainty, even when you do not intend to. Over time, this pattern can shape how others perceive you, making your voice seem less decisive and less impactful. Eliminating weak language does not mean becoming rigid or overly forceful. It means becoming intentional. It means choosing words that reflect clarity and confidence. Instead of saying, I think this might work, you can say, this approach works because. The difference is not just in the words, but in the energy behind them. One creates doubt, while the other creates direction. Hesitation is another factor that can weaken your speech. It often shows up as pauses filled with or ah, rushed sentences, or inconsistent pacing. Hesitation usually stems from overthinking or fear of judgment. You may be trying to find the perfect words, or worrying about how you will be perceived. But in doing so, you disrupt the flow of your message. The key to overcoming hesitation is preparation and presence. When you are clear about your thoughts, you reduce the need to search for words in the moment. When you are fully present, you focus on the conversation rather than your internal doubts. This allows your speech to flow more naturally. It is not about being flawless. It is about being steady. Structuring your thoughts is another essential component of clarity. Many people have valuable ideas, but they struggle to express them in a way that others can easily understand. Their thoughts may be scattered, their explanations unclear, or their message lost in unnecessary details. When your structure is unclear, your audience has to work harder to follow you. And when people have to work too hard, they often disengage. Clarity begins with simplicity. Before you speak, take a moment to identify the core message you want to convey. What is the main point you want the other person to understand? Once you are clear on that, build your explanation around it. Start with the key idea, then support it with relevant details. This creates a logical flow that is easy to follow. When your thoughts are structured, your speech becomes more powerful. You are not just talking. You are guiding the listener. You are taking them on a clear path from understanding to agreement. This structure reduces confusion and increases impact. It allows your message to land more effectively. Your voice is another powerful tool that shapes how your message is received. It is not just what you say, but how your voice carries your words. Pace, tone, and pauses all play a role in creating authority and clarity. Pace refers to how quickly or slowly you speak. Speaking too quickly can make you seem nervous or rushed, while speaking too slowly can lose the listener's attention. The key is to find a balanced pace that feels natural and controlled. A steady pace allows your words to be understood while giving you time to think. It also signals confidence, as it shows that you are not rushing to get through your message. Tone reflects your emotional state and attitude. A confident tone is calm, steady, and grounded. It does not need to be loud or aggressive. In fact, quiet confidence is often more powerful than forceful speech. When your tone is consistent and controlled, it creates a sense of stability. People feel that you are in control of your message and yourself. Pauses are often overlooked, but they are one of the most effective tools in communication. A well-placed pause can emphasize a point, give the listener time to process, and allow you to gather your thoughts. Instead of filling every silence with words, learn to embrace pauses. They add weight to your message and create a sense of confidence. When you are comfortable with silence, it shows that you are not anxious or unsure. Speaking with authority also involves knowing how to be persuasive without being pushy. This is a delicate balance. If you are too passive, your message may not have enough impact. If you are too forceful, you may create resistance. True persuasion lies in guiding rather than forcing. Persuasion begins with understanding. When you listen first and understand the perspective of the other person, you can tailor your message in a way that resonates with them. You are not trying to impose your ideas. You are connecting your ideas to their needs, their concerns, and their goals. This alignment makes your message more compelling. Confidence plays a key role in this process. When you believe in what you are saying, you do not need to push. Your conviction naturally influences others. People are more likely to be persuaded when they feel that you are certain and composed, rather than aggressive or desperate. Respect is equally important. When you respect the perspective of others, even if you disagree, you create an environment of openness. People are more willing to consider your ideas when they feel that their own views are valued. This mutual respect reduces resistance and makes persuasion feel collaborative rather than confrontational. Clarity also enhances persuasion. When your message is clear and easy to understand, it becomes more accessible. People are more likely to agree with something they can fully grasp. Confusion creates doubt, but clarity creates confidence. When your ideas are presented in a straightforward and logical way, they become more convincing. As you develop your ability to speak with authority and clarity, you will begin to notice a transformation in your interactions. People will listen more attentively. They will respond more positively. Your ideas will carry more weight. You will no longer feel the need to over-explain or justify yourself. Instead, your words will stand on their own. This transformation is not about becoming someone else. It is about refining how you express who you already are. It is about aligning your internal confidence with your external communication. When these two elements are in harmony, your presence becomes powerful. Practice is essential. Every conversation is an opportunity to strengthen this skill. Pay attention to your language, your tone, and your structure. Notice how small adjustments can create significant changes in how you are perceived. Over time, these adjustments become habits. And those habits shape your identity as a communicator. Remember that authority is not about dominance. It is about presence. It is about speaking in a way that commands attention without demanding it. It is about being clear, confident, and composed. When you achieve this, you create a voice that people respect and trust. Your words have the power to influence, to inspire, and to create change. But that power is only realized when your delivery matches your intent. When you speak with authority and clarity, you unlock that power. You move from simply participating in conversations to leading them. And when you lead conversations, you begin to shape outcomes. Chapter 5: The Power of Framing and Perspective. There is a hidden force operating in every conversation you have, quietly shaping how your words are received, how your ideas are judged, and ultimately what outcomes you create. That force is not just what you say, but how you present it. It is the frame you place around your message, the perspective you invite others to see, and the meaning you assign to situations. This is the power of framing, and once you understand it, you will never approach communication the same way again. Two people can present the exact same idea, yet receive completely different responses. One is met with enthusiasm, agreement, and support. The other is met with hesitation, doubt, or rejection. The difference is rarely the idea itself. It is the way the idea is framed. Human beings do not respond to facts in isolation. They respond to how those facts are interpreted. They respond to context, emotion, and perception. And perception is shaped by framing. Framing is the lens through which people see your message. It determines whether something feels like an opportunity or a risk, a solution or a problem, a gain or a loss. When you master framing, you gain the ability to influence how others interpret information before they even begin to analyze it. You are not changing reality. You are guiding how reality is perceived. Consider how a simple shift in language can completely alter the meaning of a situation. If you describe a challenge as a problem, it creates tension and resistance. But if you describe the same challenge as an opportunity for growth, it creates curiosity and engagement. The situation itself has not changed, but the perception of it has. And perception drives behavior. This is why the way you present your ideas shapes outcomes so profoundly. When you speak, you are not just delivering information. You are shaping interpretation. You are influencing how others think, feel, and respond. If your framing is unclear or negative, it can limit the potential of your message. But when your framing is intentional and empowering, it can elevate your ideas and create momentum. One of the most powerful applications of framing is in handling objections. Objections are a natural part of any meaningful conversation. They are not signs of failure, but opportunities for deeper understanding. However, how you respond to objections determines whether they become barriers or bridges. Most people react to objections defensively. They try to argue, justify, or prove the other person wrong. This approach often creates resistance because it turns the conversation into a conflict. But when you reframe objections, you shift the dynamic. Instead of seeing them as obstacles, you see them as openings. Reframing an objection means acknowledging the concern while guiding the perspective in a new direction. It is about finding the underlying value in the objection and using it to strengthen your message. For example, if someone expresses doubt about a new idea, that doubt can be reframed as a desire for certainty. Instead of dismissing the doubt, you can address the need for clarity and provide reassurance. This approach transforms resistance into alignment. Reframing requires flexibility in your thinking. It requires you to step outside of your own perspective and consider how the other person sees the situation. When you do this, you gain insight into their concerns, their motivations, and their priorities. This insight allows you to respond in a way that resonates with them, rather than pushing against them. At the heart of framing lies the psychology of perception and bias. Human beings do not perceive reality objectively. Our perceptions are shaped by past experiences, beliefs, and expectations. These biases influence how we interpret information, often without our awareness. Understanding this allows you to communicate more effectively. One common bias is the tendency to focus more on potential losses than gains. People are naturally more sensitive to what they might lose than to what they might gain. This means that the way you present an idea can significantly impact how it is received. If you frame something as avoiding a loss, it may feel more urgent and compelling than framing it as achieving a gain. Another important factor is familiarity. People are more comfortable with what feels familiar and may resist what feels unfamiliar. When you introduce new ideas, framing them in a way that connects to something familiar can reduce resistance. It creates a sense of continuity rather than disruption. Emotions also play a crucial role in perception. People do not make decisions based purely on logic. Emotions influence how information is processed and how decisions are made. When your framing connects with emotions, it becomes more powerful. It creates a deeper level of engagement that goes beyond intellectual understanding. One of the most effective ways to influence perception is through stories and analogies. Stories have a unique ability to capture attention, evoke emotion, and simplify complex ideas. They create a narrative that people can relate to, making your message more memorable and impactful. When you use a story, you are not just explaining an idea. You are illustrating it. You are allowing the listener to experience the idea through a scenario. This makes the message more vivid and easier to understand. It also creates an emotional connection, which strengthens the impact. Analogies serve a similar purpose. They bridge the gap between the unfamiliar and the familiar. By comparing a new concept to something the listener already understands, you make it more accessible. This reduces confusion and increases clarity. It allows the listener to grasp the idea more quickly and confidently. The power of stories and analogies lies in their ability to bypass resistance. When people feel that they are being persuaded directly, they may become defensive. But when they engage with a story, they lower their guard. They become more open to the message because it does not feel like pressure. It feels like exploration. As you develop your ability to frame ideas effectively, you will also learn how to guide conversations without dominating them. True influence does not come from controlling the conversation or overpowering others. It comes from guiding the flow in a way that feels natural and collaborative. Guiding a conversation begins with listening. When you understand the perspective of the other person, you can align your framing with their needs and concerns. You are not forcing your ideas onto them. You are connecting your ideas to what matters to them. This alignment creates a sense of partnership rather than opposition. Subtlety is key. Instead of telling people what to think, you invite them to see things from a different perspective. You ask questions that encourage reflection. You present ideas in a way that allows them to arrive at their own conclusions. This approach is far more effective than direct persuasion because it respects the autonomy of the other person. Confidence also plays a role in guiding conversations. When you are calm and composed, you create a stable environment. People feel more comfortable engaging with you. They are more likely to follow your lead because your presence conveys certainty without pressure. It is important to remember that framing is not about manipulation. It is about clarity and intention. It is about presenting your ideas in a way that highlights their value and relevance. When done ethically, framing enhances communication rather than distorting it. It helps people see possibilities that they might not have considered. As you practice framing, you will begin to notice its impact in your daily interactions. You will see how small changes in language can shift the direction of a conversation. You will become more aware of how others frame their ideas and how it influences your perception. This awareness gives you greater control over your own communication. You will also develop a greater sense of flexibility. Instead of feeling stuck when faced with objections or challenges, you will see opportunities to reframe. You will approach conversations with curiosity and creativity, rather than rigidity. This mindset allows you to adapt and respond more effectively. The power of framing and perspective is not just a communication skill. It is a way of thinking. It is the ability to see situations from multiple angles and to choose the perspective that creates the most positive outcome. When you develop this ability, you become more resilient, more resourceful, and more influential. Every conversation you have is an opportunity to shape perception. It is an opportunity to guide how others see ideas, situations, and possibilities. When you take control of that process, you move from reacting to leading. You become someone who can influence outcomes not by force, but by insight. Your words have the power to shape reality, not by changing facts but by changing how those facts are understood. And when you learn to harness that power, you unlock a new level of communication, one where your ideas do not just exist but resonate, inspire, and create action. Chapter 6: Persuasion without resistance. There is a common misconception about persuasion that has quietly misled many people. It is the belief that persuasion is about convincing, pushing, or overpowering someone's thinking until they agree with you. This approach may work occasionally, but more often than not, it creates resistance. People pull back, become defensive, or shut down completely. The harder you push, the more they resist. This is because persuasion, when done incorrectly, threatens one of the most fundamental human needs, the need for autonomy. Human beings want to feel in control of their decisions. They want to believe that their choices are their own, not imposed on them by someone else. The moment they sense pressure, their natural instinct is to protect that control. This is why people resist being persuaded. It is not always about disagreeing with the idea itself. It is about resisting the feeling of being controlled. When you understand this, your entire approach to persuasion changes. You stop trying to force agreement and begin to create alignment. You realize that the most powerful persuasion is not about making people do what you want, but about helping them want what you are offering. It is about guiding, not pushing. It is about influence without resistance. At the heart of resistance is a psychological mechanism often referred to as reactance. This is the internal pushback people experience when they feel their freedom is being limited. Even if your idea is beneficial, if it is presented in a way that feels controlling, people may reject it simply to maintain their sense of independence. This is why traditional persuasion techniques that rely on pressure or urgency can sometimes backfire. To overcome this, you must shift from a mindset of control to a mindset of collaboration. Instead of trying to win the conversation, focus on creating a shared understanding. When people feel that they are part of the process, rather than being pushed through it, they become more open. They engage more willingly, and resistance begins to fade. Subtle persuasion techniques, rooted in psychology, are far more effective because they work with human nature rather than against it. These techniques do not rely on force. They rely on understanding how people think, feel, and make decisions. When you align your communication with these natural processes, persuasion becomes effortless. One of the most powerful principles in persuasion is reciprocity. This principle is based on a simple idea. When someone gives us something, we feel a natural urge to give something in return. This does not have to be a physical gift. It can be attention, kindness, value, or understanding. When you offer value first, without expecting anything in return, you create a sense of goodwill. This goodwill makes people more open to you, and more willing to engage with your ideas. Reciprocity works because it builds a positive emotional connection. It shifts the dynamic from taking to giving. When people feel that you are contributing to them in a meaningful way, they are more likely to respond positively. This is why generosity, when genuine, is such a powerful tool in communication. It creates a foundation of trust that makes persuasion feel natural rather than forced. Another key principle is scarcity. People tend to place higher value on things that are limited or rare. When something feels abundant, it is often taken for granted. But when it feels scarce, it becomes more desirable. This principle can be applied in conversations by highlighting the unique value of an idea or opportunity. It is not about creating false urgency, but about helping people recognize what they might miss if they do not act. Scarcity taps into the fear of missing out, which is a powerful motivator. When people perceive that an opportunity is limited, they pay more attention. They consider it more seriously. However, it is important to use this principle ethically. Authenticity is essential. When scarcity is genuine, it enhances your message. When it is artificial, it can damage trust. Social proof is another powerful driver of persuasion. People often look to others when making decisions, especially in uncertain situations. If they see that others have accepted or benefited from an idea, they are more likely to consider it themselves. This is because social proof reduces risk. It provides reassurance that the choice is valid. In conversations, social proof can be expressed through examples, experiences, or shared perspectives. When you demonstrate that others have found value in what you are presenting, it creates a sense of credibility. It shows that your idea is not isolated but supported by others. This can significantly reduce resistance and increase acceptance. While these principles are powerful, the way you communicate them matters just as much as the principles themselves. One of the most important distinctions in persuasion is the difference between asking and telling. When you tell someone what to do, you risk triggering resistance. It can feel directive, even if your intention is positive. But when you ask, you invite participation. You create space for the other person to think, to reflect, and to engage. Asking questions is one of the most effective ways to guide decisions. Questions encourage people to explore their own thoughts and arrive at conclusions on their own. When people feel that they have reached a decision independently, they are more committed to it. They do not feel pressured. They feel empowered. For example, instead of telling someone why your idea is the best option, you might ask questions that lead them to see its value. Questions like, "What would be the ideal outcome for you?" or "What do you think would work best in this situation?" Shift the focus from your perspective to theirs. This creates a collaborative environment where ideas can be explored together. Guiding decisions through questions also demonstrates respect. It shows that you value the other person's input and perspective. This respect builds trust, and trust makes persuasion more effective. People are more willing to consider your ideas when they feel that their own voice is heard. Another important aspect of persuasion, without resistance, is emotional alignment. People make decisions based on how they feel, not just on logical reasoning. When your message aligns with their emotions, it becomes more compelling. This does not mean manipulating emotions, but understanding them. When you recognize what matters to the other person, you can frame your message in a way that resonates with their values and priorities. Confidence also plays a significant role. When you are confident in your message, you do not need to push. Your certainty creates a sense of stability that others can rely on. This confidence should be calm and grounded, not aggressive. It should invite trust rather than demand agreement. One of the most powerful outcomes of this approach is that it allows you to influence while making others feel in control. This is the essence of effective persuasion. When people feel that they are choosing freely, they are more open, more engaged, and more committed. They do not feel pressured or manipulated. They feel respected and empowered. This balance is what separates true influence from force. It is the difference between leading and pushing. When you lead, you create direction while allowing others to move at their own pace. When you push, you create resistance. The goal is not to overpower, but to guide. As you begin to apply these principles, you will notice a shift in your conversations. You will feel less need to convince, and more ability to connect. People will respond more positively, because they do not feel pressured. They feel involved. They feel that their perspective matters. This shift requires patience and awareness. It requires you to listen, to observe, and to adapt. It requires you to let go of the need to control the outcome, and focus instead on creating alignment. But as you develop this skill, it becomes more natural. It becomes part of how you communicate. You will find that persuasion becomes less about effort and more about flow. Conversations will feel smoother, more collaborative, and more effective. You will no longer feel the need to argue or defend your ideas. Instead, you will guide others toward understanding and agreement. Remember that persuasion is not about changing people. It is about connecting with them. It is about finding common ground and building from there. When you approach conversations with this mindset, you create an environment where influence can thrive. Your ability to persuade without resistance is one of the most powerful skills you can develop. It allows you to create outcomes that benefit both you and others. It strengthens your relationships, enhances your communication, and expands your opportunities. Because in the end, the most effective persuasion is not the kind that forces agreement, but the kind that makes agreement feel natural. Chapter 7: Handling Difficult Conversations Like a Pro. There are moments in life when conversations stop being easy. The tone shifts, emotions rise, and what once felt like a simple exchange becomes tense and unpredictable. These are the moments that define you. Not the easy conversations where everything flows naturally, but the difficult ones where pressure builds, opinions clash, and emotions threaten to take control. It is in these moments that your true communication skill is revealed. Most people struggle with difficult conversations, not because they lack intelligence or good intentions, but because emotions take over. When emotions rise, logic often takes a backseat. The heart beats faster, the mind races, and reactions become automatic rather than intentional. Words are spoken too quickly, tones become sharper, and before you realize it, the conversation has turned into a conflict rather than a connection. This happens because of how the human brain is wired. When we perceive a threat, whether physical or emotional, our brain activates a defensive response. This response is designed to protect us, but in conversations it often works against us. We may feel attacked, misunderstood, or challenged, and our instinct is to defend ourselves. We interrupt, we argue, we raise our voices, or we withdraw completely. In doing so, we lose control of the conversation. Understanding this is the first step to mastering difficult conversations. It allows you to recognize that emotional reactions are natural, but they do not have to control you. You have the ability to pause, to breathe, and to choose your response. This is what separates reactive communication from intentional communication. Staying calm under pressure is not about suppressing your emotions. It is about managing them. It is about creating a space between what you feel and how you respond. When you feel tension rising, your first instinct may be to react immediately. But the most powerful move you can make is to pause. Even a brief moment of silence can give you the clarity you need to respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively. Your breathing plays a crucial role in this process. When emotions escalate, your breathing often becomes shallow and rapid. By consciously slowing your breath, you send a signal to your body that you are safe. This helps regulate your emotional state and allows you to think more clearly. It may seem simple, but it is incredibly effective. Your mindset also matters. When you enter a difficult conversation with the goal of winning, you create opposition. But when you enter with the goal of understanding, you create openness. This shift in mindset changes everything. It allows you to approach the conversation with curiosity rather than defensiveness. You begin to see the other person not as an opponent, but as someone with a perspective that deserves to be understood. De-escalation is one of the most valuable skills you can develop in these situations. It is the ability to reduce tension and bring the conversation back to a constructive level. De-escalation does not mean avoiding the issue or giving in. It means addressing the situation in a way that prevents it from spiraling out of control. One of the most effective ways to de-escalate is through tone. Your tone can either fuel the fire or calm it. When you speak in a calm, steady voice, you create a sense of stability. Even if the other person is emotional, your calmness can influence the direction of the conversation. It signals that you are in control of yourself, and this often encourages the other person to adjust their behavior as well. Acknowledging the other person's feelings is another powerful de-escalation technique. When people feel heard, their intensity often decreases. This does not mean you have to agree with them. It means you recognize their perspective. Simple statements that show understanding can have a significant impact. They make the other person feel less defensive and more open to dialogue. Listening becomes even more important in difficult conversations. When emotions are high, people often want to be heard more than anything else. If you interrupt or dismiss them, it can escalate the situation further. But when you listen attentively, you create space for the tension to ease. You allow the other person to express themselves fully, which often reduces the need for them to push harder. It is also important to manage your own language. Certain words and phrases can trigger defensiveness. Accusations, generalizations, and absolute statements often make the other person feel attacked. When this happens, they are more likely to respond defensively rather than constructively. By choosing your words carefully, you can keep the conversation focused on the issue rather than turning it into a personal conflict. Turning conflict into cooperation requires a shift in perspective. Instead of seeing the conversation as a battle to be won, you begin to see it as a problem to be solved together. This approach changes the dynamic from adversarial to collaborative. You are no longer trying to prove the other person wrong. You are working together to find a solution. This collaborative mindset encourages openness. It allows both parties to express their views without fear of being dismissed. It creates an environment where ideas can be explored rather than defended. When people feel that they are part of the solution, they are more likely to engage positively. Finding common ground is a key part of this process. Even in the most challenging conversations, there is often some level of agreement. It may be a shared goal, a common value, or a mutual concern. By identifying and emphasizing this common ground, you create a foundation for cooperation. It reminds both parties that they are not completely opposed, but that they share something in common. Once this foundation is established, the conversation becomes more productive. Instead of focusing on differences, you begin to build on similarities. This makes it easier to explore solutions that benefit both sides. It transforms the conversation from a conflict into an opportunity for growth. Disagreeing without losing respect is one of the most important skills you can develop. Disagreement is inevitable. People have different perspectives, experiences, and opinions. The goal is not to eliminate disagreement, but to handle it in a way that preserves the relationship. Respect begins with how you express your disagreement. When you communicate your perspective calmly and clearly, without attacking or dismissing the other person, you maintain a level of respect. You show that you value the relationship, even if you do not agree on the issue. It is also important to acknowledge the validity of the other person's perspective. This does not mean you agree with it, but it means you recognize that it is based on their experiences and beliefs. This acknowledgement creates a sense of mutual respect and reduces defensiveness. Confidence plays a role here as well. When you are confident in your perspective, you do not feel the need to dominate or prove yourself aggressively. You can express your views with clarity and composure. This confidence makes your message more impactful and reduces the likelihood of conflict. At the same time, humility is essential. Being open to the possibility that you may not have all the answers allows for a more balanced conversation. It creates space for learning and growth. When both parties are willing to listen and adapt, the conversation becomes more constructive. Handling difficult conversations like a professional is not about avoiding conflict. It is about navigating it effectively. It is about maintaining control of your emotions, communicating with clarity, and creating an environment where understanding can thrive. As you develop this skill, you will begin to see difficult conversations differently. They will no longer feel like threats, but like opportunities. Opportunities to strengthen relationships, to build trust, and to grow as a communicator. You will notice that your confidence increases. You will feel more prepared to handle challenging situations. You will no longer fear conflict, because you know you have the tools to manage it. Every difficult conversation you face is a chance to practice. A chance to refine your ability to stay calm, to listen deeply, and to respond thoughtfully. Over time, these moments will become less intimidating and more empowering. Because the true mark of a great communicator is not how they perform when everything is easy, but how they respond when things become difficult. And when you learn to handle those moments with skill and composure, you elevate not only your conversations but your entire presence. Chapter 8: Reading People Instantly. There is a level of communication that exists beyond words, a silent language that speaks constantly, revealing thoughts, emotions, and intentions even when nothing is said. Most people hear what is spoken, but only a few truly see what is communicated. When you develop the ability to read people instantly, you unlock a powerful advantage. You begin to understand what others are feeling, even when they try to hide it. You sense shifts in energy, notice subtle signals, and adjust your approach in real time. This is not guesswork. It is awareness sharpened into skill. Every interaction is filled with information. The way someone stands, the way they move, the way their eyes shift, the tone of their voice, even the pauses between their words all carry meaning. Nonverbal communication often reveals more than spoken language because it is harder to control. While people can carefully choose their words, their body language and emotional signals often tell the truth beneath the surface. Understanding nonverbal communication is the foundation of reading people. It is about observing without judgment and noticing patterns without rushing to conclusions. When someone leans forward, it may signal interest or engagement. When they lean back, it may indicate distance or hesitation. Crossed arms might suggest defensiveness, but in another context it could simply mean comfort. The key is not to interpret signals in isolation, but to observe clusters of behavior and consider the context. Eye contact is one of the most revealing forms of non-verbal communication. Steady eye contact often signals confidence and engagement, while avoiding eye contact can indicate discomfort, insecurity, or distraction. However, it is important to recognize cultural and personal differences. Some people naturally maintain less eye contact, not because they are dishonest, but because it is their norm. This is why reading people requires sensitivity and awareness rather than rigid assumptions. Facial expressions are another powerful source of information. The human face can express a wide range of emotions, often in fractions of a second. These fleeting expressions, known as micro-expressions, are incredibly revealing. They occur involuntarily and can expose true emotions even when someone is trying to conceal them. A quick flash of frustration, a brief moment of surprise, or a subtle tightening of the lips can provide insight into what someone is really feeling. Micro-expressions require careful observation. They are easy to miss if you are not fully present. But when you train yourself to notice them, you begin to see beyond the surface. You start to pick up on emotional cues that others overlook. This awareness allows you to respond more effectively because you are not just reacting to words, but to the underlying emotions driving those words. Emotional cues extend beyond facial expressions. They are present in tone, pace, and rhythm of speech. A person who speaks quickly may be excited or anxious. A slower, more measured pace may indicate calmness or careful thinking. Changes in tone can signal shifts in emotion. A voice that becomes sharper may indicate frustration, while a softer tone may suggest uncertainty or vulnerability. As you become more attuned to these cues, you will begin to recognize patterns of confidence, insecurity, and resistance. Confidence often appears as relaxed posture, steady movements, and a calm, controlled voice. It is not loud or aggressive, but grounded and assured. Confident individuals tend to take up space comfortably, without appearing tense or rigid. Insecurity, on the other hand, often shows up as fidgeting, avoiding eye contact, or inconsistent speech patterns. There may be hesitation, self-correction, or a tendency to downplay one's own ideas. These signals do not necessarily mean a lack of ability, but they can influence how others perceive the person. Recognizing these cues allows you to adjust your approach in a way that supports and encourages, rather than intimidates. Resistance can be more subtle. It may appear as closed body language, minimal responses, or a lack of engagement. Sometimes it is expressed through delayed reactions or vague answers. Resistance does not always mean disagreement. It can also indicate uncertainty, confusion, or a need for more information. When you recognize resistance early, you have the opportunity to address it before it grows into a larger barrier. The ability to read these signals is not about labeling people. It is about understanding them. It is about seeing beyond the surface and recognizing the emotional dynamics at play. This understanding allows you to communicate more effectively because you can tailor your approach to the person in front of you. Adjusting your approach based on personality types is a natural extension of this skill. People have different communication styles, and what works for one person may not work for another. Some individuals are direct and decisive. They appreciate clarity and efficiency. Others are more reflective and prefer a slower, more thoughtful pace. Some are highly expressive, while others are more reserved. When you can identify these differences, you can adapt your communication in a way that resonates with each individual. This does not mean changing who you are. It means being flexible in how you express yourself. When you match your style to the preferences of the other person, you create a sense of alignment. Conversations become smoother, more engaging, and more effective. For example, with someone who values directness, being concise and to the point can build respect. With someone who values connection, taking the time to engage emotionally can strengthen rapport. With someone who is analytical, providing clear reasoning and structure can increase trust. This adaptability is a powerful form of intelligence. It allows you to connect with a wide range of people without losing your authenticity. Reading people also involves understanding group dynamics, often referred to as reading the room. This skill is essential in situations where multiple people are involved, such as meetings, presentations, or social gatherings. Each room has its own energy, shaped by the individuals within it and the context of the interaction. When you enter a room, take a moment to observe. Notice who is speaking, who is listening, who seems engaged, and who appears disconnected. Pay attention to the overall mood. Is it relaxed or tense? Collaborative or competitive? These observations provide valuable information about how to approach the situation. Reading the room allows you to adjust your tone, your pace, and your message to fit the environment. If the room is formal, a more structured approach may be appropriate. If it is informal, a relaxed and conversational style may be more effective. If there is tension, acknowledging it with calmness and clarity can help ease the atmosphere. It also helps you identify key individuals who may influence the direction of the conversation. Some people naturally hold more influence in a group. By recognizing who they are and understanding their perspective, you can navigate the conversation more strategically. This does not mean ignoring others, but being aware of the dynamics at play. Presence plays a crucial role in reading people. You cannot observe effectively if your mind is elsewhere. Being fully present allows you to notice subtle details and respond in real time. It sharpens your awareness and enhances your ability to connect. As you develop this skill, you will begin to see conversations in a new way. You will no longer rely solely on words. You will notice the unspoken elements that shape interactions. You will understand not just what is being said, but what is being felt. This awareness gives you a powerful advantage. It allows you to anticipate reactions, adjust your approach, and create more meaningful connections. It reduces misunderstandings and increases clarity. It helps you navigate complex situations with confidence. Reading people instantly is not about becoming perfect at interpretation. It is about becoming more aware, more attentive, and more responsive. It is about developing a sensitivity to the human experience that goes beyond surface-level communication. With practice, this skill becomes second nature. You will find yourself noticing things you once overlooked. You will respond more intuitively. You will connect more deeply. And as you do, your influence will grow. Because when you truly understand people, you do not need to force conversations. You move with them. You adapt to them. You connect with them on a level that feels natural and effortless. And that is where real communication begins. Chapter 9: Building Unshakable Presence. There is something powerful about certain individuals that cannot be easily explained, yet it is immediately felt. They walk into a room, and without saying a word, attention shifts. Conversations adjust. People become more aware. It is not always about appearance, status, or even what they say. It is something deeper. It is presence. Presence is one of the most underestimated yet transformative qualities you can develop. It is not about being the loudest person in the room or demanding attention. It is about the energy you carry, the confidence you project, and the emotional control you maintain. It is the silent force that shapes how others perceive you before you even speak. When you have presence, people listen. They pay attention. They take you seriously. Not because you force them to, but because something about you naturally commands it. This is why presence matters. It influences how your words are received, how your ideas are valued, and how your identity is perceived. Without presence, even the most brilliant thoughts can go unnoticed. With it, even simple words can carry weight. To understand presence, you must first recognize that it is not something external that you put on like a mask. It begins internally. It is rooted in how you see yourself, how you manage your emotions, and how grounded you are in your own identity. When your internal state is stable and confident, it reflects outwardly in everything you do. The psychology of respect and status plays a significant role in this. People are constantly, often unconsciously, assessing status in social interactions. This does not necessarily mean social rank or position, but perceived value. They are asking themselves who holds influence, who seems confident, and who appears secure in themselves. Respect is not given solely based on titles or achievements. It is communicated through behavior. It is reflected in how you carry yourself, how you speak, and how you respond under pressure. When you demonstrate self-assurance and composure, you signal that you value yourself. And when you value yourself, others are more likely to value you as well. Status is closely tied to perception. It is not something you declare, but something others infer. High-status individuals tend to exhibit calmness, control, and certainty. They are not rushed, not reactive, and not easily shaken. They move and speak with intention. This creates a sense of stability that others are drawn to. On the other hand, low-status signals often appear as nervousness, over-explaining, seeking approval, or reacting emotionally to every situation. These behaviors may be subtle, but they influence how others perceive you. The goal is not to imitate someone else, but to become aware of the signals you are sending and align them with the presence you want to project. This brings us to the balance between internal confidence and external signals. Internal confidence is the foundation. It is the belief in your own worth, your ability, and your right to be heard. Without this, any attempt to project confidence externally will feel forced or inconsistent. People can sense when confidence is not genuine. External signals, however, are how that internal confidence is expressed. They include your posture, your eye contact, your tone of voice, and your overall demeanor. When your internal confidence aligns with your external behavior, you create authenticity. This authenticity is what makes presence powerful. For example, standing upright with relaxed shoulders communicates openness and confidence. Maintaining steady eye contact shows engagement and assurance. Speaking with a calm, measured tone reflects control. These signals may seem small, but together they create a strong impression. The key is alignment. If your internal state is uncertain, but your external signals attempt to project confidence, there will be a disconnect. This is why building presence is not just about changing how you appear, but about strengthening how you feel internally. When you develop true confidence, your external signals naturally follow. Controlling your energy and emotional state is one of the most important aspects of presence. Your energy is constantly influencing those around you. People can sense when you are calm, when you are anxious, when you are confident, and when you are uncertain. This energy shapes the tone of your interactions. Emotional control does not mean suppressing your feelings. It means managing them in a way that allows you to respond intentionally, rather than react impulsively. When you are in control of your emotions, you create stability. This stability becomes a source of confidence, not just for you but for those around you. One of the most effective ways to control your energy is through awareness. Notice how you feel in different situations. Pay attention to your thoughts, your body language, and your reactions. When you become aware of your patterns, you gain the ability to adjust them. Breathing is a powerful tool in this process. Slow, controlled breathing helps regulate your nervous system and brings you back to a state of calm. This calmness is reflected in your presence. It allows you to remain composed, even in high-pressure situations. Your mindset also plays a crucial role. When you focus on external validation, your energy becomes dependent on how others respond to you. But when you focus on your own values and intentions, your energy becomes self-sustained. You are no longer seeking approval. You are simply expressing yourself with confidence. Commanding attention without saying much is one of the most advanced expressions of presence. It is the ability to influence a room through your demeanor alone. This does not require dramatic gestures or loud speech. In fact, it often involves doing less, not more. Silence can be incredibly powerful. When you are comfortable with silence, it shows that you are not anxious or rushed. It creates a sense of control. People become more attentive because they sense that what you say next will be meaningful. Stillness is another important element. Constant movement or fidgeting can signal nervousness. But when you are still and composed, it creates a sense of confidence. Your movements become more intentional, and this intention draws attention. Eye contact also plays a key role. When you look at someone with focus and calmness, it creates a connection. It shows that you are present and engaged. This connection naturally commands attention. Timing is equally important. Knowing when to speak and when to pause can enhance your impact. When you speak at the right moment, your words carry more weight. When you pause, you create anticipation. This balance creates a rhythm that keeps others engaged. Presence is not about dominating a room. It is about influencing it. It is about creating an atmosphere where your presence is felt, where your words are valued, and where your energy shapes the interaction. As you develop this skill, you will begin to notice changes in how others respond to you. People will listen more attentively. They will take your ideas more seriously. They will feel your confidence and respond to it. You will also notice changes within yourself. You will feel more grounded, more composed, and more in control. Situations that once felt intimidating will become manageable. Conversations that once felt challenging will become opportunities. Building unshakable presence is not an overnight transformation. It is a process of awareness, practice, and growth. It requires you to align your internal state with your external behavior, to manage your energy, and to communicate with intention. Every interaction is an opportunity to strengthen this presence. Every conversation is a chance to practice being more aware, more composed, and more confident. Over time, these small efforts accumulate, creating a presence that is not easily shaken. And when your presence becomes unshakable, something remarkable happens. You no longer need to prove yourself. You no longer need to fight for attention or validation. Your presence speaks for you. It becomes your greatest advantage, shaping not only how others see you but how you see yourself. Chapter 10: Becoming a Master Communicator. There comes a point in your journey where communication is no longer something you think about step by step. It becomes something you embody. It flows naturally. It feels effortless. You are no longer trying to remember techniques or apply strategies consciously. Instead, everything you have learned begins to integrate into who you are. This is what it means to become a master communicator. Mastery is not about perfection. It is not about always saying the right thing or never making mistakes. It is about consistency. It is about showing up with awareness, confidence, and intention in every interaction. It is about understanding people, managing your presence, and guiding conversations in a way that feels natural and authentic. At this stage, the skills you have developed begin to work together. Listening, likability, persuasion, presence, and emotional control are no longer separate concepts. They become interconnected. When you listen deeply, you build trust. When you build trust, your words carry more influence. When your presence is strong, your message is received with respect. Everything reinforces everything else. This integration is what transforms communication from a skill into a strength. You are no longer reacting to conversations. You are navigating them. You are aware of the dynamics, the emotions, and the subtle signals that shape every interaction. This awareness allows you to respond with clarity and confidence, even in unpredictable situations. Natural communication does not mean passive communication. It means being intentional without being forced. It means expressing yourself clearly while remaining open to others. It means adapting without losing your authenticity. This balance is what makes your communication both effective and genuine. One of the key elements of mastery is adaptability. Every situation is different. Every person you interact with brings their own perspective, personality and emotional state. What works in one conversation may not work in another. This is why flexibility is essential. Adapting your style does not mean changing who you are. It means adjusting how you communicate to connect more effectively. With someone who is direct and results-focused, you may choose to be concise and to the point. With someone who values connection and emotion, you may take more time to engage and build rapport. With someone analytical, you may focus on clarity and structure. This ability to adjust creates alignment, and alignment makes communication smoother. The more you practice this adaptability, the more natural it becomes. You begin to sense what each situation requires. You adjust your tone, your pace, and your approach without overthinking. This is not manipulation. It is awareness in action. It is the ability to meet people where they are, while staying grounded in who you are. Master communicators also understand that growth does not stop. Even at a high level, there is always room to improve. This is where daily habits come into play. Small, consistent actions can sharpen your communication skills over time and keep you evolving. Awareness is one of the most important habits you can develop. Pay attention to your conversations. Notice how people respond to you. Observe what works and what does not. Reflect on your interactions and identify areas for improvement. This awareness turns every conversation into a learning experience. Another powerful habit is intentional listening. Make a conscious effort to listen more deeply, to be fully present, and to understand before responding. This habit strengthens your connections and enhances your influence. It also helps you gather valuable insights that can improve your communication. Practicing clarity is equally important. Take the time to organize your thoughts before you speak. Focus on expressing your ideas in a simple and direct way. This habit not only improves your communication, but also increases your confidence. When you know how to articulate your thoughts clearly, you feel more in control. Reading and learning also contribute to your growth. Exposure to new ideas, perspectives, and communication styles expands your understanding. It gives you new tools and approaches that you can integrate into your own style. Growth in communication is closely tied to growth in thinking. As you continue to develop, it is important to be aware of common mistakes that even skilled communicators make. One of the most common is overconfidence. As your skills improve, there is a risk of becoming too certain, too dominant, or too focused on your own perspective. This can create distance rather than connection. True mastery requires humility. It requires you to remain open, to continue listening, and to respect the perspectives of others. Another common mistake is losing presence. Even experienced communicators can become distracted, thinking about what to say next or focusing on external factors. When this happens, the quality of the interaction decreases. Presence is what makes communication powerful, and it must be maintained consistently. Overcomplicating is another pitfall. As you gain knowledge, there is a tendency to add complexity to your communication. But clarity is always more effective than complexity. The ability to simplify your message is a sign of true mastery. It shows that you understand your ideas deeply enough to express them clearly. There is also the risk of becoming too calculated. While techniques and strategies are valuable, relying on them too heavily can make your communication feel unnatural. People respond to authenticity. The goal is not to follow a script, but to communicate in a way that feels real and engaging. Avoiding these mistakes requires balance. It requires you to stay grounded, to remain aware, and to prioritize connection over control. When you maintain this balance, your communication continues to evolve in a positive direction. The ultimate goal of becoming a master communicator is not just to improve your conversations, but to create lasting influence in your life. Influence is not about controlling others. It is about inspiring, guiding, and connecting in a way that creates meaningful outcomes. In your personal life, this influence strengthens relationships. It allows you to communicate openly, resolve conflicts effectively, and build deeper connections. People feel understood and valued when they interact with you. This creates trust, and trust is the foundation of strong relationships. In your professional life, influence opens doors. It enhances your ability to lead, to collaborate, and to present your ideas effectively. It positions you as someone who can navigate complex situations with confidence and clarity. This not only improves your performance, but also increases your opportunities. What makes this influence lasting is authenticity. When your communication is genuine, it creates a lasting impression. People remember how you made them feel. They remember the clarity of your message, the confidence of your presence, and the respect you showed. These impressions build your reputation over time. As you reach this level of mastery, you begin to realize that communication is not just a skill. It is a way of being. It shapes how you interact with the world, how you build relationships, and how you create opportunities. It becomes a part of your identity. Every conversation becomes an opportunity. An opportunity to connect, to learn, to influence, and to grow. You no longer see communication as something you have to do. You see it as something you can use to create value. The journey to becoming a master communicator is continuous. There is always more to learn, more to refine, and more to explore. But with each step, you become more confident, more effective, and more impactful. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to enjoy conversations rather than fear them. You begin to see possibilities where others see limitations. And most importantly, you begin to understand that the power to influence, to persuade, and to be respected is not something reserved for a few. It is something you can develop, refine, and master. Because when you master communication, you do not just change how you speak. You change how you are seen, how you are heard, and how you are remembered. Conclusion: the long-term power of psychological communication. There is a moment, often quiet and almost unnoticeable, when everything you have learned begins to change the way you see the world. Conversations are no longer just exchanges of words. They become opportunities. You begin to notice the subtle shifts in tone, the unspoken signals, the emotional currents beneath the surface. You recognize patterns. You understand reactions. And most importantly, you realize that you are no longer just participating in conversations, you are shaping them. This is the true power of psychological communication. It is not about memorizing techniques or following formulas. It is about developing a deeper awareness of how people think, feel, and respond. It is about aligning your words, your presence, and your intention in a way that creates meaningful impact. When you reach this level, communication stops being a challenge and becomes a tool, one that you can use to transform your relationships, your opportunities, and ultimately your life. Mastering conversation has a profound effect on your relationships. It changes how you connect with people on a fundamental level. You begin to listen more deeply, not just to respond but to understand. You communicate with clarity and empathy, creating a space where others feel valued and respected. This strengthens trust, and trust is the foundation of every meaningful relationship. When people trust you, they open up. They share more. They engage more honestly. Conflicts become easier to navigate because you approach them with composure and understanding, rather than defensiveness. Misunderstandings decrease because you are more aware of both verbal and nonverbal cues. Over time, your relationships become stronger, more authentic, and more fulfilling. In your professional life, the impact is just as powerful. Opportunities begin to appear in ways that may have once seemed unpredictable. You communicate your ideas more effectively, making them easier for others to understand and support. You present yourself with confidence, earning respect and credibility. You navigate conversations with skill, whether in meetings, negotiations, or everyday interactions. What once felt like competition begins to feel like collaboration. You are able to align with others, to build consensus, and to create outcomes that benefit everyone involved. This ability sets you apart. It positions you as someone who can lead, influence, and contribute at a higher level. But perhaps the most powerful aspect of mastering communication is its compounding effect. Like any valuable skill, its impact grows over time. Each conversation builds on the last. Each interaction strengthens your confidence, your awareness, and your ability to connect. Small improvements accumulate, creating significant changes. A single conversation handled well can open a door. Consistently handling conversations well can transform your entire path. Over time, people begin to see you differently. They begin to associate you with clarity, confidence, and reliability. Your reputation grows not through effort alone, but through consistent experience. This compounding effect extends beyond immediate outcomes. It shapes how people remember you, how they talk about you, and how they respond to you in future interactions. It creates a ripple effect that influences not just one conversation, but many. This is how influence grows, not in sudden leaps, but through consistent, intentional communication over time. As you continue to develop, you move toward becoming someone others trust, respect, and listen to. This is not achieved through force or authority alone. It is earned through behavior. It is built through consistency. It is reinforced through every interaction. Trust comes from authenticity. When your words align with your actions, people see you as reliable. Respect comes from confidence and composure. When you carry yourself with calm assurance, people recognize your presence. Being listened to comes from clarity and relevance. When you communicate in a way that resonates, people pay attention. These qualities are not separate. They work together, creating a presence that others naturally respond to. You do not need to demand attention. You attract it. You do not need to force agreement. You guide it. This is the essence of influence. At this stage, there is a final mindset shift that must take place. It is the shift from talking to leading. Talking is about expressing yourself. Leading is about creating direction. It is about guiding conversations toward meaningful outcomes. It is about being intentional with your words and your presence. When you lead conversations, you take responsibility for the interaction. You are aware of the dynamics, the emotions, and the direction. You do not leave the outcome to chance. You influence it through your awareness and your choices. This does not mean controlling others. It means guiding the process in a way that creates clarity, alignment, and progress. This shift changes how you approach every interaction. You begin to ask yourself not just what you want to say, but what you want to create. You focus on the outcome, the connection, and the value you bring. This intentionality transforms your communication from reactive to proactive. The journey does not end here. In fact, this is where it truly begins. Everything you have learned becomes meaningful only when you apply it. Knowledge without practice remains potential. Practice turns that potential into reality. Your next step is simple but powerful. Begin to practice these skills in your everyday life. In your conversations with friends, colleagues, and even strangers, pay attention to how you listen, how you speak, and how you respond. Notice the impact of small changes. Adjust, refine, and continue. You do not need perfect conditions to practice. Every interaction is an opportunity. Every conversation is a chance to improve. The more you engage with intention, the more natural these skills become. Over time, they will no longer feel like techniques. They will feel like habits. And eventually, they will become part of who you are. There will be moments when you feel challenged. Conversations that do not go as planned. Situations that test your patience and composure. These moments are not setbacks. They are opportunities to grow. Each challenge strengthens your ability to respond with clarity and confidence. As you continue, you will begin to notice a transformation not just in how others respond to you, but in how you feel about yourself. You will feel more confident, more capable, and more in control. You will approach conversations with a sense of purpose, rather than uncertainty. And with that confidence comes freedom. Freedom to express yourself clearly. Freedom to connect with others authentically. Freedom to influence without force. This freedom allows you to navigate your life with greater ease and effectiveness. The power of psychological communication is not limited to specific situations. It extends to every area of your life. It shapes your relationships, your career, and your personal growth. It is a skill that continues to evolve, offering new insights and opportunities as you develop. You now have the foundation. You understand the principles. You have the awareness. The next step is yours. Step into your conversations with intention. Speak with clarity. Listen with depth. Lead with presence. And as you do, you will begin to see the true power of communication unfold, not just in what you say, but in the impact you create. Thank you for reading this book. I hope you enjoyed it. Please remember to leave us a review. TM Light. Disclaimer. This book was created with the assistance of artificial intelligence. While every effort was made to ensure the accuracy and relevance of the content, readers should note that this cannot be considered professional advice. Readers are encouraged to apply their own judgment and consult experts where needed.